against DKMR's Faramir.
And here we go right off with a Mage versus Miracle. And immediately we're going to see an actually really interesting mulligan there from the... oh, okay, so I thought this might be a Freeze Mage coming out from Faramir, but nope, it's going to be the pretty classic aggro Mage with the Undertaker. Not full aggro, I don't believe it's running Leper Gnomes. Since I see that Polymorph, it's probably running a little bit more of the mid-range deck with things like potentially Karen Bloodhoof and Sylvanas, but definitely some elements of aggro with the Undertaker and the early Death Rattle minions like Loot Hoarder and Mad Scientist.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair assessment. I can look into those decks in just a moment, but I do want to make sure the overlay in the screen is good, because that's something that needs to get tweaked as we move forward.
I feel like overall this deck can have a really strong matchup against the Miracle Rogue because of the potential of the secrets. If you have something like Counterspell out, when your opponent needs to go for a really key play like eviscerating or sapping a large minion, or trying to conceal a Gadgetzan Auctioneer, if that's blocked, or something like a Gadgetzan Auctioneer, a really key minion, is copied with a Mirror Entity, then that could really throw a wrench into a Miracle Rogue's plans. However, if Mage doesn't quite get the draw out, since they aren't running a lot of card draw in these types of decks, maybe one or two Arcane Intellects and, of course, the Loot Hoarders, but besides that, they can run a little dry on cards. If he isn't able to get a huge board presence out and keep his hand refilled, then Mage should have a little bit of breathing room to draw out those cards to try and get the burst going. We already see the Cold Blood there in the hand along with the Eviscerate. Those are going to be really key ways to burst down your opponent. We haven't seen, Leroy in these decks. It typically works a lot more on building a bit of a board presence and then using a few minions on the board along with Cold Blood to do your damage there.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think overall in terms of the starts for both players? We've got, as you mentioned, some of the minions on board, and here we go. So Earthen Ring's coming down. I was going to suggest that seemed like the only play, with the exception of the Shiv, but I like this as a way of beginning to gain board advantage.
Yeah, he did kind of a little bit of a risk assessment of that Undertaker and decided that even though it could potentially grow, it won't grow into anything he can't take care of with Eviscerate or Shiv. And so he's just going to let it on the board so that he can put something out. And even though it doesn't trade that favorably against the Undertaker, since Undertaker was able to kill 2 3/3s by itself, or probably will be, it's still going to be a way for Hyped to get a little bit of board back and just keep the Undertaker, or take out the Undertaker without having to burn some of his card draw and some of his spells. He could combo later with the Gadgetzan Auctioneer or Violet Teacher.
And the Rogue's got a full arsenal to clear minions and to gain board presence. But with a 3/6 on board, what are your thoughts here? I mean, he's got Sap. Certainly, as you mentioned, he's got the minion now and Eviscerate with Shiv. Even Cold Blood. Oh, Deadly Poison. So, okay, his arsenal and ability to get rid of minions is just growing and growing. I was going to ask if you thought he was in a bad spot, but I don't know.
He definitely has to react to this board now, especially with something like a Water Elemental, but that Counterspell is definitely going to throw a bit of a wrench in his plans, and that's why, of course, he didn't go for the Shiv last turn. I couldn't quite see it on the overlay. But now he's just going to Eviscerate and... Or no, he's got actually Sapping. Okay. Sapping the enemy Water Elemental to keep it back for a turn, and hopefully use something like an Eviscerate or a Cold Blood to remove it in the future. Right now, I feel like Hyped isn't in the best spot. He hasn't been able to remove that Undertaker yet, which has gotten quite a bit of work done, taken out a 3/3 and done a little bit of face damage. And he's going to have that Water Elemental coming back into his face pretty soon, which could keep him from using that Deadly Poison to make plays.
Having the Kirin Tor come down without a secret's not ideal, but he still can use hero power to clear the minion. So it's not the worst, but it's certainly not ideal. And
yeah.
The Rogue here. I mean, you really do want to weapon up and put on the Deadly Poison, but that kind of locks you out of everything but the Eviscerate.
Right. At this point, he's not got too many great options. If he wants to do something like hero powering down the Undertaker to finally remove it, then he doesn't have a great way to remove that Kirin Tor Mage unless he tries to combo Eviscerate with Deadly Poison. If you throw out the Violet Teacher, you can't really combo spells with it, since of course you don't want to throw a Cold Blood out if you're not attacking that turn. And so right now, Hype doesn't have too many options. He's had to be fairly reactive, but still hasn't been able to react to everything. Throwing out this Azure Drake will help him draw into that Gadget Auctioneer, which is really, really nice pickup for him at this point in the game. But of course, it's not going to trade favorably with that Kirin Tor Mage. I feel like right now, Faramir is a bit ahead. Just because he's been able to keep minions on the board, he's been able to apply pressure. Things could change when Hyped gets that Gadget Auctioneer down, though.
Yeah. You know, this seems to be... yeah, I mean, you've got... This is a single conceal rogue. I've seen a variety of rogues now since the changes to Leroy, where some have double. So he needs to draw into that, and like, you know, as I was saying, with only one in the deck, trades minions on board, he's gonna have to pretty much... Oh, you get a backstab, but I'll continue to allow the draw. So it looks like he's not comfortable yet with bringing down the Gadgetzan because he doesn't have that conceal. So he's going to eviscerate after backstabbing, which I think is a really good play, and will buy him more time.
Yeah, this gives him a board presence, and it's a really, really nice draw. Spawning those 1/1s from the Violet Teacher can really help give you some great trades. Can also provide potential targets for your Deadly Poison if you need them, but they're mostly going to be used to sack into your opponent's minions, just to try and keep that board clear and make it a little bit safer for the Gadget and Auctioneer.
Potentially, you mean for your Cold Blood?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I thought you... That's what I assumed you meant. I'm sure everyone figured that you meant the same as well. I mean, Deadly Poisoning a minion's a fantastic idea. We'll have to ask Blizzard about that in the new release.
Come on, if I can sharpen my blade, why can't I sharpen my minions?
Exactly.
But yeah,
they look like they have blades. Okay. So the teacher's gone, and that, you know... Well, okay, what are your thoughts on Lothab here? I mean, the other option is Gadgetzan and then Cold Blood, but I guess Cold Blood works because it clears the Drake, but you really want to save it for damage to the face. In this, talk to me about this matchup and where damage needs to go in your opinion, because the Rogue does eventually run out of damage.
That's true, and that's why it's been pretty difficult to use things like Eviscerates when he did take out that Water Elemental, and that's why I feel like Faramir's in a pretty good position. He will go ahead and use that Cold Blood to sack into the Azure Drake. The other play was just to weapon up and go face, except that your Lothab would die, but then have your weapon and the Deadly Poison to draw cards with your Gadgetzan the turn after. This is a really solid play for the current board state, but it does set you a bit behind, since you... even if you weapon up and Deadly Poison with your Gadgetzan next turn, you don't have the mana to play anything after that, and you're really going to be hoping for some lucky top decks, which that Earthring Farseer doesn't quite constitute.
So this is going to be a pretty straightforward clear here, both minions into both other minions, allowing no steal on Sylvanas, but what it unfortunately does is it kind of puts Hyped back to square one, if you will.
Yes, exactly. That Sylvanas is so powerful to force your opponent to clear their own board. Sylvanas provides so much pressure on the others to silence, and I've never seen any rogue deck run a silence. We only see them with the saps as a means to take care of that Sylvanas. And so here we will see finally one card coming out of the Gadgetzan Auctioneer.
Oh!
He gets the Concealed, but he doesn't have the mana for it, which is why he really wanted the weapon from an earlier turn. This is just going to get Polymorphed or Frostbolt hero powered, and that puts Faramir in the huge, huge spot. Now Conceal's going to be useless because you don't really need to conceal the Earthring Farseer.
Okay, do you polymorph here? Because Frostbolt can potentially pair with a variety of your spells, your Ice Lances in particular.
You know, you kind of have the luxury of doing whatever you want. I would go with the polymorph just because you know the biggest minions that Miracle's running are Azure Drake, Lothab, and Gadgetzan, and so you've already dealt with two of them. Yeah. So this one's not going to be too much of a challenge.
And this particular mage of Faramir's is not running Antonidas. It's running Ragnaros with a Flame Strike. So it's kind of a little bit different than some of the mages I've been seeing.
Okay, yeah. So just overall a high value mage to keep your board protected with secrets while getting really favorable trades with things like Sylvanas or the Black Knight, and then closing out the game with high damage from Ragnaros and from your spells, Fireball and Frostbolt, and the like. Wow.
It feels to me like Hype just can't get anything started here.
That's true. The Violet Teacher is a nice draw, He would really like to get some card draw from a Gadgetzan, but even if he can't get it, I would expect him to do something like Violet Teacher Conceal, just to get some minions on the board. Unfortunately, the Earthen Ring Farseer isn't going to stick out there, and Faramir has just been able to keep up the aggression and keep up the board presence consistently throughout this game. He hasn't been able to draw too many cards, but he's been able to play basically one card a turn along with his hero power and keep his hand consistently full.
Yeah.
Yikes. Giving a 3-5 Violet Teacher to your opponent is not something you wanted to do. You don't have any way to deal with it either. You can't equip the Assassin's Blade or anything to help with it, and that's going to be a huge swing.
I mean, he didn't attack yet, right? So I guess he could attack in and then know that he can clear it later.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, at this point, I mean, you could attack phase 2, but yeah, I guess that makes more sense. I was hoping that he would maybe draw into something that he would allow him to do the extra points of damage, maybe like an SI or something, but ultimately could also use his own Violet Teacher.
Yeah, when I say this was like a huge swing for Faramir, I mean that, you know, he was slightly getting the lead and then it just careened off course.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks like, if it's not lethal there, I can't quite see all the cards he still has yet to play.
He just has a Fireball and Hero Power. He played Counterspell as well.
Alright, so he was so close to lethal, and of course Hype can't do anything with the preparation by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, with Hyped, I expect to see more of a Freeze Mage, and with those Frost Novas, that's of course what it's going to be. He's going to be running things like Frost Nova Doomsayer for removal. He'll probably have a copy of Blizzard and Flame Strike in there as well, and then of course he closed out the game with Alex Straza and either a Pyroblast or an Archmage Antinitis, which he's going to draw into right now, not the card he wants to see, and this is a thick hand for Hyped. He really wants to get a minion out early, a Loot Hoarder or a Mad Scientist, something to get those cards going, those secrets out, and the cycle in his hand. The only redeemable part of this hand is the Arcane Intellect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the goal here is to significantly prevent, as that kite flies away, significantly prevent your opponent from doing damage. Okay, so you're getting a Frost Nova, that's starting to work. You don't really want 2 Ice Blocks in hand, and you certainly don't want 2 Ice Lances. Ugh.
Yeah, this is a completely terrible draw. This is one of the decks that I feel most confident on, because I actually got some coaching from Otter on it back when Freeze Mage was a little bit more in its prevalence before Nax. And early on, all you're looking to do is draw cards. You save your Frost Novas until it's preventing a large amount of damage. Right now, I think all you can do is... I would prepare an Ice Block here, since your hero power is only stopping 2 damage, and it enables either a secret or card draw. You also have the option to hero power now, and then next turn develop a secret and hero power again to remove both of the minions. Neither of them are great options. You'd really like to be able to play something like your Loot Hoarder or your Mad Scientist, but as we can see, he's got all the damage in the world. If he can hold out, he's going to be able to take down Faramir, since Faramir doesn't have anything like Ice Barrier or Ice Block. But surviving to that point might be kind of difficult, especially with these secrets out on Faramir's side.
Yeah. And you know, this deck is running, this deck of Hyped is running 2 Blizzards and 1 Flame Strike. That's sort of the makeup of his AoE removal, in addition to the 2 Cone of Colds and the 2 Frost Novas. So we're going to see the Frost Elemental come down, continuing to put pressure down. And next turn, Hyped will get to play a Blizzard, since he drew into it. So the question is, do you begin to freeze with your Frost Nova despite not having a Doomsayer? Or are you okay with taking this damage?
I think you just go ahead and hero power, develop. Or you can't. The issue is if you throw out an Ice Block right now, it's going to get counterspelled. You can assume that your opponent's running Mirror Entity counterspell, and so he's going to just throw out an Ice Lance here, potentially, to proc it. Yeah, one cool interaction here that Hyped has to his disposal is Faramir has a Mirror Entity, and Mirror Entity can actually really help out Freeze Mage. Oh wow, so he has 2 secrets out, but neither of them are counterspell.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised. I wish we could see which ones those are. But what's cool about Mirror Entity is if you have a Doomsayer and you throw it down, that will immediately clear everything on the enemy board as soon as you end turn, because your opponent will get a Doomsayer, and then at the beginning of their turn, Doomsayer will kill everything. And so he did not want to Ice Lance that minion at all. He was just expecting to kill that counterspell. Now without the counterspell there, we have to assume that it's Duplicate and Mirror Entity.
Correct. It is Duplicate and Mirror Entity from his deck list, not from any other information, but yes. Hero Power into the face.
And this draw has been pretty tragic. I mean, right now, Faramir can just kind of afford to use his mana to try and take down Hyped as quickly as possible. He wants to pop that Ice Block before Hyped gets out his Alexstrasza, because that's kind of the big determining factor in a game. If you can lay down Alexstrasza on your opponent when you still have Ice Block up, then you have a really good chance of winning. But if that Ice Block is popped before you can Alex, then you're never going to find the mana to Ice Block and Alex and keep everything alive or do damage in the same turn, and it just makes it pretty much impossible. So Faramir's just using his mana effectively so that he can take it down by turn 7 or 8.
Yeah, that's a really good spot-on analysis. That's really the issue with Freeze Mage, is not having enough mana to do everything you want to do in those late turns, and that's why you're looking to delay, to allow yourself, in fact, to Alexstrasza without fear of death. But as it stands, that isn't the case, and Hype's in a bit of a tough spot. He can Cone of Cold, he can Blizzard, he can Frost Nova, but at 15 health, he's in a tough one. What would you do here? It looks like just Hero Power, duplicate that, which is good. You don't want to duplicate the Frost Elemental, and then a Fireball, since there's no counterspell. Using
a Fireball is fine, especially since you have Archmage Antonidas in your hand, and you know that you're going to get some Fireballs from your Ice Lance, maybe even from a Frost Nova if you do Antonidas Frost Nova in a turn. But the big issue is he's down to 15 health right now, and he has no Alexstrasza in sight, and he really needs that card if he's going to have a chance in this game. I think the funniest Freeze Mage game I've ever seen was in the Sea Story Cup with the Reynad, where Archmage Antonidas and Alexstrasza were two of the bottom 3 cards in his deck.
Yeah, I should remember that.
Yeah, he managed to go all the way down to Fatigue to draw those 2 cards, and hopefully Hyped doesn't run into the same. Maybe that could be the Tempo Storm curse.
Yeah, that would be a pretty funny and painful curse. So, bringing down the Scientist here. Okay, so there goes the Mirror Entity, and I feel like that's going to benefit... I feel like that's going to benefit Faramir more than it's going to benefit Hype, just because of the advantage he has. Is there a way that could play out in Hype's favor?
You know, I suppose he just got it out of the way now in case he wants to throw it in our Antonidas a little bit later, because getting the Antonidas Mirror would just be signing your own death.
Yeah, no, you're right. I guess you're right. What he's looking at, there's no way to win without Antonidas coming down, right? He's way behind, so this is your best chance.
Especially with using both Fireballs, there's no way that you can kill your opponent without Antonidas. Since you've used 1 Ice Lance and both Fireballs, the most damage that you can deal is 2 Frostbolts and an Ice Lance, which is only 10 damage.
And he's used 1 Ice Lance already, remember, to potentially proc a secret which didn't exist.
Right. So that's why, yeah, he has 2 Frostbolts and an Ice Lance left in his deck. He hasn't
drawn I'm sorry, I thought you said 2 and 2. Anyway, yes, please continue.
And so, yeah, that's only 10 damage. And so now, fortunately, he has some ways to keep this board down. He can use his Cone of Cold or his Blizzard right now. Both of them have merits, but I would actually expect to use the Blizzard, since you're not too worried about saving your mana. Something like the Cone of Cold. You could then just run your Sheep into the Undertaker and feel pretty good about what's going on for now, as long as you can draw into a very lucky card in the next couple of turns. But so from what we can see, Faramir kind of has all the answers he needs. He has Fireballs to deal with the Antonidas. He has Loetheb to stop a lot of the damage coming in, maybe in the post-Alexstrasza turn. And he can
even drop a counterspell to prevent a second Ice Block from coming down.
That's so true. The ability of Faramir to disrupt with Hype, even post-Alexstrasza, is huge right now. That if you see Alex come down and then you do something like throw out Loetheb, there's nothing that Hype can do, because even just using a single Fireball is going to cost 9 mana and take up your entire turn.
Man,
what you're
all
really
right, what
looking.
would you do if you are hyped and you're looking to win this? You're put in this situation. Your tournament life is on the line. What do you think about? What do you try to make happen?
Heart of the cards. That's all he can do.
Yeah.
He's just gotta hope that he can draw into that Alex Straza. That's kind of going to be his only saving grace here.
Is that the only card? Wow, just Alex Straza, huh?
At this point, yeah. His ice block almost gets popped here. There's not quite enough mana to do it.
He's got an ice barrier, which could potentially buy him a little bit more time, but you might want to... Has he checked this particular secret for a counterspell again?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no, not this one. I thought you were saying, does Faramir know this ice block?
Yeah.
And he does.
He does. I'm just thinking you could ice barrier, which will buy you 8 more points of health to potentially get into your Alex Straza, and then next turn you can also Archmage, but you could Archmage this turn. But I kind of like the ice barrier, but I'm certainly no freeze mage expert. What are your thoughts?
The issue here with ice barrier is it's not going to gain you any health, since your opponent is just going to hero power you to pop the ice block. And hero power by itself won't activate the ice barrier. You actually have to be attacked
by a minion. You're absolutely right.
And so,
absolutely right.
At this point, he needs to Alex himself, or else he's on a 2-turn timer.
Wow. So I guess it's Archmage, right?
I get what do you do with Archmage? Do you ice against the face? I mean,
clearly you ice lance the Archmage.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
my
you
God.
get a fireball in your hand. I mean, maybe Faramir is going to have a stroke, could disconnect. There are certainly ways for Hyped to win this game. They are just incredibly unlikely.
I prefer playing the ice block and hoping your opponent doesn't realize that hero powers will not proc it, and he somehow drops a minion with charge, which the mage doesn't have, and you get the ice barrier up. All right. Oh man.
You just hope that your opponent forgets how to play the game. Then that's gotta be your best bet. So I mean, here, the only way that he can really come back is Alexing himself, and even then, you've given your opponent an Archmage Antonitis. They're going to be able to damage you post Alex.
That's a little early on that. My mistake. It might have been a slight miscalculation on my overlay on the game end. I kind of feel like it's over. I'll delay it. I'll delay it until the official death blow has been dropped. But here we have 2 Antonite. We have the Antonite hanging out with one another. And there's the concede. I was 10 seconds too early.
Well, it wasn't ultimately premature in the scheme of things. I mean, we knew what Hype needed to keep applying pressure throughout the game.
And as you see here in the mulligan, we have an Ancient Watcher, and that is no mistake. There are 2 Wailing Souls in this deck named Grindstone. We're talking about a series of interesting cards in this deck. And 1 Force Savage combo, for those of you kiddies out there wondering.
Okay, well, this is something new. We are seeing a bit of an innovation from Hyped, and maybe another player invented this, but I've not quite heard of it. He's also running the Earthen Ring Farseer.
Yep, 1 Earthen Ring.
I guess to kind of improve the matchup against Hunters, I would suppose.
Yeah, also this deck does have 1 Wrath, not 2, so there's a very interesting tweak deck. 2 Sunfury Protectors to go with those Ancient Watchers. If you remember the Ancient Watcher Druid of way long ago. A Harrison Jones for shits and giggles. And then 2 Spectral Knights, Sylvanas, Black Knight, and 2 Lures. Very interesting.
Is there any Defenders of Argus?
1.
Okay, because this feels like a very heavy anti-Hunter deck. With the healing, with the Harrison, with the Watchers, and Argus. But getting out a Spectral Knight right now is an excellent move. Your opponent can't fireball it down, which is going to be Mage's go-to method of dealing with a 6 health minion. And now with the Mirror Entity out, you can just proc it with something like the Ancient Watcher, which is going to be completely useless for the Mage, since Mage doesn't have a single way to activate it, and it's just going to be a body on the board.
Yeah. Best activation on that Ancient Watcher is to polymorph it.
Oh yeah, you give yourself a 1/1. 1/1 for 4 mana.
1/1 for 4 to get that kill blow in, assuming your opponent doesn't hero power up for that extra armor. Okay, we have his own Watcher down, which then gets duplicated. The Spectral Knight into the face, and while this is pretty anti-aggro or anti-hunter deck, I think this is a pretty good start. Getting that Innervate in, there's no wild growth in this deck. You really do need that Innervate to get an advantage, since that's your only way early on, as well as to potentially silence your own minion, which we don't see an ability to silence yet in the Druid, as the Loot Hoarder comes down and gets killed.
Yeah, seeing that Wailing Soul activation will be really, really cool. There's a bit of anti-synergy with the Sylvanas with the Spectral Knight, but if he can activate that Ancient Watcher, that'll be worth it to see. And right now he's had a pretty good start. He's already applied quite a bit of pressure to his opponent, and he has the board control. Mage does have a couple ways to get it back, though, with potential Flame Strike in the future. Right now it doesn't wipe everything, but it'll be a really key play to get Faramir back into the game.
Yeah, Faramir's Mage deck doing so much work here. And on that note, I do want to mention that, as you would suspect, there are 2 other cards in the deck, the Keeper of the Groves, to silence without silencing the entire Druid board. So, he's got options, and he's got 2 Ancient of Lores to draw into them. So this is a pretty formidable board with no AoE clear in the hand at the moment. So you're going to see a Sheep come into play.
And that's really necessary here, since you don't want to give your opponent the Ancient Watcher, since you know they have an activation for it. Since that would be the likely play if you were to run your Loatheb into it. This is also going to be pretty much the biggest thing that you can polymorph, since you can't target the Spectral Knights, and that Ancient of War doesn't have a Death Rattle on it. Although, Cenarius may be a potential target for a future polymorph if he draws into it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, that Cenarius is going to be real nice. If you can buff up this entire board, Sunfree Protector as well to activate Taunts puts Hyped in a huge position, bringing his opponent down to 9. I'm not sure Faramir is going to be able to come back from this one.
I don't think so. I'm feeling Hyped, preventing the 3-0 here.
Would you say you're hyped for Hyped?
I'm hyped for more games from Hyped. I really want to see what he's capable of, and I feel like the first 2 games were not a fair portrayal of his skill. I feel like they were a fair portrayal of his lack of RNGs. RNGs! Oh!
Yeah, the draw in the Freeze Mage game was atrocious, getting both Ice Blocks in his starting hand.
Yeah. And we've got an Activator. We have the question is... Oh, okay, we have another Mirror Entity.
1 damage off lethal.
God. Look at all of these... Yeah, no, absolutely. I was going to say, look at all these Watchers, man. Haven't seen anything like this in a while. This is a hashtag new meta, my friend.
Yeah, it's really good against this Mage. This is like the perfect matchup for him, because they're such dead cards for the Mage on the Mirror Entity, and you always have the potential back with Sylvanas.
That was interesting. He did not even think about the Black Knight, because you might not want to Ancient... It's game anyway, but you might not have wanted to give Taunt to your activated Watcher, but it doesn't matter. It's just something to think about for the future. As we jump into our 3rd game, because it is not...
Tends to have a lot of trouble with Druid, because it can't fight for board control all too well, and so he's going to try to out-aggro it. However, from what we've seen, I feel like this deck is potentially really strong against Hunter, because of its anti-aggro aspects with the taunts, with the untargetability, and with the healing. Yeah. Of course, there's a 1-drop in the Hunter's hand, because he's running quite a few of them. He doesn't get the Undertaker, though. And the Zombie Chow on turn 1 from Hyped is going to be such a strong way to grab some board control early. It prevents the turn 1 Leper Gnome from Faramir, and it's actually going to prompt simply, or potentially, a Flare to get some draw going. Zombie Chow is a perfect draw here.
Yeah, you know what, you mentioned this earlier, that you thought this might be an anti-Hunter or an anti-aggro deck, and so why do you think, seeing the cards that came out, why do you think Faramir chose what might be its weakest matchup? Is this potentially making sure he knows every card in the deck before he plays the stronger matchups? That's the only thing I can think of, but what are your thoughts?
Maybe, I think part of it's because he doesn't know everything in the deck. He doesn't... he did get to see a lot of the aspects of it. He got to see the Watchers, the Taunts, the Earthening Farseer as well, but I'm not sure he is quite aware to the extent that it can counter Hunter with things like Harrison Jones, since he probably hasn't seen this deck too many times. Also, like you said, he has two options. It doesn't really matter which he goes with first. And so if he feels like Warrior is the better matchup, you might as well go with Hunter first. So like you said, you can do some recon. You could potentially see some like in Harrison Jones, because that'll definitely affect how you play your Warrior game.
Yeah, certainly. Interesting. And yeah, we noticed that this deck does have Cenarius in it as well. So quite a little bit of late game to go along with all that. The anti-aggro in the early game. And so we're going to see the Juggler and the Juggle come down. And that's, you know, Lotheb is pretty strong body to have out there. He can even Keeper, which is a perfect... I mean, you can also Swipe, but either one are great options, because the Keeper as a 2/4 body doesn't die to the weapon, doesn't die to the Leper Gnome. I mean, there's so much you can do here. This feels fantastic for Hyped.
Oh yeah, this is a really good spot for him. I'm kind of surprised he went for the Lotheb over the Azure Drake, but I suppose he just wanted to keep something like a Secret from coming down, or maybe an Animal Companion. Yeah. Usually we'd see card draw being picked over Lotheb, but I suppose the slightly stronger body and limiting spells worked out pretty well. It's a huge
tempo swing, right? The Lotheb. You do prevent so much. You can only allow minions to calm down, which he has all the answers for. So it makes a lot of sense. With this deck, you do not want the Hunter to gain advantage or tempo against you.
Very right, and he was able to seize that. Now he can use his Keeper to trade in pretty well. He can now draw cards from that Azure Drake. You can feel pretty safe about that, and that's going to be likely the best play here.
He can also proc that Secret, and then if it is a Snake Trap, swipe face and clear. He has the other option here to hero power one of the minions. He can even Drake innervate hero power. You know, he has a lot to do here. What would you do in this case?
You know, if I knew it was Snake Trap, I would definitely hero power the Mad Scientist, and then innervate swipe face. I think would probably be a really strong play. You could also send in your Keeper to it, but since he doesn't know what it is, going for the draw first is really safe. You don't have to go for the Scientist at all, and attacking in now, you know that it's Snake Trap, since Misdirection, Snipe, Explosive, and Freezing were all just tested there.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, well, gets the Misha and another Scientist, so we have a potential for a lot of secrets on board here. Black Knight, what a draw! I mean, wow. If Hyped was due for something and was you know, if he was due, this was a card he was due at this point.
Yeah, this is RNG's us apologizing for the terrible hands that Hyped had the last couple of games.
What do you think he's thinking about here? Like, what could he? Is he thinking about an Innervate Watcher, healing up? What would you be thinking about other than just the Black Knight?
You know, I think one of the biggest things that pro players can learn when you're playing is you've got 90 seconds. You might as well use them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking Until the Rope to think through everything that's going to happen, not just in this turn, but in the next turns. But I think what he's considering is, after he Black Knights, does he want to start taking out minions? He could potentially burn through some traps easily. I would expect him to just Black Knight and then go face from here. Because with that swipe in hand and with a pretty huge board, it's going to be really unlikely that that the Hunter can stop you from killing him within the next couple of turns.
He knows what the trap is. He uses the rope, comes up with the same answer, and at this point, the Hunter's got 2 spiders and the weapon, and none of that's going to be very good, because ultimately, once the spiders are procced or they are killed, their death rattle can easily be dealt with a swipe. So Hyped has all the answers and 26 health, which is a pretty nice place to be when your Hunter is at 8.
And that's game. Yeah. Because he's going to be able to just proc the trap, and he could just double swipe face even. He could just swipe innervate swipe. And so that's Hyped bringing it back 2-2. So we are seeing a full series here from what was a really amazing start from Faramir's Value Mage. But it looks like Hyped's Druid is making quite the impact here. We've got one more game. Faramir's going to be forced to bring out his Warrior.
Very nicely done. Very nicely done. All right.
I know there's a Wailing Soul in this deck. because Sight hasn't shown it. What's also cool about that Wailing Soul is it will also silence a Zombie Chow to prevent your opponent from gaining health. That's another really cool synergy. So not only with the Ancient Watcher, but with that one drop as well.
Just to show you guys real quick, yeah, the Warrior was that last deck. And looks like that one of our streams went down. So with that being said, I think we're just going to be watching it from Hype's perspective. And yeah, it looks like Faramir's stream went down. I'll see if it comes back up, but it looks like it is down. Sometimes when these guys are, yeah, sometimes they close their stream down accidentally or what have you. But okay, so into this matchup. Let's talk a little bit about Faramir's Warrior here.
I'm assuming it's a very standard control warrior. He's going to really rely on getting those weapons out with things like Death's Bite to take out some of those 4 health minions, like the Azure Drake or the Keeper of the Grove. That'll be really strong. Also Shield Block, Shield Slam to take care of Sylvanas or Ancient of Lore. Right now, this Innervate Coin Spectral Knight on turn 2 is going to be absolutely insane. Yeah. On turn 2, he's got 6 attack and 9 health worth of minions on the board. And how on earth does Warrior take care of that unless you have a silence damage execute for the Spectral Knight or something like that? I'm not exactly sure how you deal with him besides just taking hits from him turn after turn until you can deal with him, you know, coming up.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's so brutal. I mean, oh god, what an amazing card to put down. Yeah, so we do have 1 slam in this deck. Otherwise, pretty typical 2 death spites. We got the Gromish. We don't have the Gorehowl in here, so this is kind of that earlier variant. There is a Spellbreaker in here and a Brawl. So there are potential answers somewhere down the road, but we don't know
Brawl,
what.
He needs Brawl. He needs Brawl so bad.
Another Spectral Knight. So yeah, we don't know what's in Faramir's hand at this point. As I said, because that stream is not up at the moment. But we can be sure that if he has a Brawl on turn 5, it's coming down. The Spellbreaker probably would have come down on turn 4 if that was an option. One good thing about the Brawl here, if it does come into play, is he's going to get Faramir is going to get 10 points of healing if both of the Zombie Chows go down. So while they're a really good tempo card, they're certainly a reverse tempo card once they get wiped.
Yeah, that's true. They're used for board control. Here, however, he hasn't really needed to use them for board control since there hasn't been a board from Faramir at all. Yeah. That Sentient Shieldmaster was just 4 mana, gaining 5 health. Ooh.
That's probably going to close out the game here because he's going to have a swipe next turn. And effectively, you could potentially clear a few of these minions, but I think he has to be looking to clear the Zombie Chows just to gain health. I think that's where his priority needs to be. Although he's going to go for the Spectral Knight, so let's see what happens here.
I'm trying to see what his follow-up is. There's the Cruel Taskmaster, so he finally does take care of the Spectral Knight.
Yep.
But without an Execute or something, no, that's just going to be game here.
Oh wait, he's got a Slam.
And that gets him the health back. So he's alive for now. Okay.
Really nicely done. Really nicely done. So we have 8 damage, 9 with Hero Power, which is pushing. And if any pieces of the combo come in, so there's so much here. I personally like the. Well, let's think about this. You could get. Yeah, I think trading and bringing down Sylvanas would have been my thought. I was going to say you want to probably keep the Keeper of the Grove, and certainly the swipe for the finish, just in case something comes down that's really hard to deal with. So Sylvanas is a great play here.
Yeah, very true. You can use your Keeper to deal an extra 2 points of damage here. Right now, you're looking at 9 points of damage from Hyped, because unfortunately you can't swipe after that Loatheb. And so he's actually going to go ahead and silence up his Zombie Chow to prevent the health being gained off of that, which is really important when you're pushing down here sub 10 health. And that's going to be a really great way to enable this double swipe next turn to find lethal, even if your board gets cleared.
Yeah. Can you take this for a second? There's something I have to do on a technical end here.
Yeah, of course. So right now, I mean, Faramir is fishing for answers. He does throw in his Loatheb. He did get up to 10 health. And with this Sludge Belcher, he's actually not going to be looking at lethal quite yet. that Force of Nature is not going to do too great here, since Sludge Belcher is pretty much the bane of Force of Nature's existence. But he still does have pretty good ways to deal with it, using his hero power and his swipe. You can keep both of your minions alive and swing through for another 2 points of damage from a minion. And then you do have Force of Nature for a potential 6 damage, comboed with your hero power on the next turn for 7, along with the 2 attack on your board. Also, Savage Roar could do quite a bit of work here for Hyped. Just depends on what he draws. He has some strong plays. The Alexstrasza, though, from Faramir is a huge play. It's not quite something I was expecting. I kind of counted Faramir out because of how far ahead Hyped got, but he wasn't able to kill him, and so Faramir jumps back up to 17 effective health. Hyped does have a couple of strong plays here. He has have the potential Cenarius for the buffs on his minions, or for summoning 2/2/2 taunts. He has kind of a liberal choice of what he'd go for. I would buff them up so that you're not as vulnerable to Brawl. And that's what he's going to choose to go for. He does swing in for quite a bit of damage. And now Faramir has to be worried. He can take care of the Cenarius with his Alex, but without something like a Brawl, it's looking like we might see lethal once again.
Yeah.
There's Grom for removal, and he does execute, but that's going to be game. Force of Nature swipe deals 10 damage, and your opponent's at 9 health. And so Hyped is able to close out the series after dropping 2 games to the Value Mage, using this really, really unique Druid deck to 3-0 Faramir on...
Yes, so we have Tempo Storm's Hyped against DKMR Varranis, and it is Hyped playing the Miracle Rogue versus the Hunter.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, this is really just a draw-dependent matchup. Neither one historically has a huge advantage. It just depends on whether or not Hunter can push through consistent damage to pressure the Rogue, or whether Rogue can get in some card draw to burst down his opponent with the Cold Bloods and with the Eviscerates come turn 7 or 8. Mm-hmm. And right now, this is a really, really weak draw from the Hunter. He gets the Web Spinner on turn 1, but the rest of his hand is thick. He doesn't want to see Savannah Highman yet, and even the Animal Companion is going to look pretty clunky there. He doesn't have a turn 2 play at all, and if you have to Hero Power turn 2, that just provides so much breathing room for the Rogue, who has a really strong hand. He already has Gadgets and Auctioneer. He has the potential to coin out a Van Cleef on turn 2. Mm-hmm. If you were to choose. However, the draw for an Mad Scientist was excellent to keep Varranis in the game, since I was already really, really leaning towards Hyped.
Yeah. For
a moment there.
Certainly.
Ooh, coin SI7 to be a really solid way to get rid of this Mad Scientist.
It's nice. It's really nice. I mean, you know, the Rogue getting the coin just, I think, increases its win rate versus any matchup. Since it's control... You know, I mean, it's just, it's the biggest advantage the coin gives to any class, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's so true. There are a couple classes which might, 5% want to go first or want to go second, but Rogue 100% of the time wants to go second.
Yeah.
Because that coin helps so tremendously. Even if you can't save it for the Gadget and Auctioneer, the combo potential with Van Cleef or SI7 Agent is just enormous, what you're seeing right there. Getting down the Misha is a really nice roll here, since Huffer would have really only been 4 damage and would have gotten taken out pretty easily by the either Backstab or SI7 Agent. Right now, there are a couple ways for Hype to deal with it. He's finally getting a strong hand, which he didn't quite find in his earlier Miracle game. He has a few options. He could Backstab, run into the Misha, and then throw down an Edwin Van Cleef. He could... I expect to see Backstab and running in SI7, since you have both Backstabs and you can save one for the Gadget Zan. Yeah. But overall, he's got quite a few options here. He just wants to keep the board as clear as possible so he can throw down a relatively uncontested Gadget Zan.
I'm going to take a quick sec. I have to do one technical thing, but please go for it.
Yeah, of course. And so, with this Misha on the board, I mean, it is clunky to deal with. He would much prefer to just be able to backstab a Hover straight out. But he's still got quite a few options. However, we've seen that Hype likes to take his time and think through his plays. He does opt for the backstab, but he does pop the freezing trap. Unfortunately, he won't be able to get that SI7 agent back out for the damage because of the additional cost there, and so instead he opts for the second backstab, and he throws down a 6/6 Van Cleef. It looks like a really strong play from Hype's point of view. However, we know that it will be thwarted by a Hunter's Mark. It could also get taken out by the bow and Misha combined, but that feels like a little bit too much of an investment. Both your minion and your face. I would expect to see a Hunter's Mark, and maybe the bow. You can take 6 damage to the face, but you get to leave your 4/2 with taunt out on the board, and it looks like that's the play we're going to see here from Varranis. And he's going to actually be in a pretty good spot because of that freezing trap that he was able to get out from the Mad Scientist. That really gives him some nice board control here, and it really puts him in a strong spot. The Angry Chicken is just going to be a point of damage, not really any consideration here. In case you guys are curious of why that came out, it was from the web spinner. It's not some new tech that Varranis has in his Hunter deck.
I love this Angry Chicken tech conversation. I actually played against an Angry Chicken that got buffed up gigantically, and I just silenced the heck out of it. It was such a pretty move.
Yeah, you know, it can happen. It's pretty unlikely, though. I feel like, you know, if there's someone a little new to the game, they may wonder why there's an Angry Chicken because they aren't quite sure about the web spinner mechanics. And so I figured I would lay down the knowledge bomb there. And right now, Varranis has had a really nice time of achieving board control. Even if Hyped goes for the Gadget Stand here, he doesn't have anything in combo with it. He really wants to get a preparation in. If he were able to prep Sap on that Misha, that could be the play to get his card draw rolling and to really bring him back. Because right now, it's not looking too hot for him. He's not out by any means, though.
Yeah. Okay, so he's going for the Drake, which is Ooh, Fan of Knives. That would have been really nice to play. The Drake if it survived.
That's why he's mousing over aggressively, because he wants a prep here. He wants to be able to combo it. Why can't Fan of Knives be free?
God.
Blizzard,
yeah,
please.
I mean, think about getting to drop the Blood Mage, too. Okay, so we've got the high main. So hopefully Varranis doesn't get... oh, is he going to get cheeky? Is he going to get greedy here? I never like leaving a Drake up, but it's tricky, right? So if you go with the Misha, you're getting the extra 4 points of damage, and that's effectively you're starting the race, but you're going to give a chance. Okay, I'm glad he killed the Drake. I was hoping he wouldn't let it live.
If he had something like Kill Command in his hand, I would definitely understand going for face, because you can press through for those extra points of damage. You also have a pretty sticky minion in that Savannah High main, but without the guarantee of damage, he's just going to trade off and just continue to fight for the board control, since right now he has it in the bag. The Sap's going to be a really great way to deal with that Savannah High main, and Preparation is an excellent draw for Hyped. He's going to get his Gadgets and Auctioneer rolling here, and that's going to help get him those cards in his hand that he's needed so desperately.
So he's going to get 2 cards, and he's going to get rid of the high main, so tempo swinging back a little bit in Hype's favor. But again, he only got 2 cards, and I'd be really surprised. Let's see. Man, he can't actually kill this Gadget Stand. That is...
Oh, he can.
Oh, there it is. Okay, with the two death rattles. There they are. Okay.
The Haunted Birth is a really nice draw. It just fills in his entire turn. He only leaves 1 mana hanging, and he's able to keep his Undertaker up. This is pretty weak to Fan of Knives, but you've dealt so much damage, and you know you have a Savannah High main coming down in the future. This Violet Teacher, I expect to see the Fan of Knives. It's going to be a nice play for Hype to get back on the board, but he does need a way to deal with the Savannah High main once it does come out.
Right. Interesting. So, with 8 mana, you've got... I mean... So High main is such a strong minion on the board, and it's kind of clogging his hand a little bit. But the other potential here would be the weapon, the companion, and the hero power. What do you feel like? Do you like getting the High main down to sort of clear your hand a little bit? Is there any value in the weapon, the animal companion, and the hero power?
Yeah, you know, there really is. It provides a lot more immediate damage, and it threatens potential lethal over the next turn, if not the one after. The issue with High main is if it gets sapped, then you're in an awful spot, and so he is going to roll the Animal Companion. I think the Huffer's really, really nice.
Wow.
Opponent down to 4 HP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was the right play to go for. You know, it's a little risky. If you got something like Leok, it would have been a real weak play, but because he got Huffer, that really threatens lethal.
Yeah, and with no healing at the moment, I feel like Hype's Rogue is going down. And he's got 2 Earthen Rings in the deck, but nothing in the hand. That's too bad.
Right, yeah, he doesn't have any taunts, he doesn't have any healing. He needs to Thalnos and then eviscerate his own Thalnos, and then draw. Oh. At least go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, give it a go.
You have the chance to get on Reddit. Hype's not going to do it for the Vine. He also, of course, has the potential to taunt up his Ancient Watchers, which can really stop Hunter in its tracks, since they don't have great ways at dealing with large minions turn and turn over. They have a Hunter's Mark or 2, but other than that, they don't have the ways to really draw into a lot of answers like Hunter of Old did. Hunter of Old could Buzzard, Unleash, draw 3 or 4 cards, and throw out as many cheap spells as they want willy-nilly. They can Hunter's Mark this and Hunter's Mark that. But now, without a card draw mechanism, they're really, really limited on their options to deal with large minions in consecutive turns. The Undertaker on turn 1 is going to be a real nice draw, but the Zombie Chow to counter it should allow him to kill it over 2 turns.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to get a Creeper out here, which is really nice. That's like such a nice draw, and then he can potentially, if something really scary does end up coming out of the Druid, if there was some kind of innervated element. Well, I guess you. Yeah, I was gonna say something with taunt. You can push through it with the silence, but at this point it's a little early for that. All right, so he's gonna trade with the hero power and the zombie chow.
And this is the strength of the zombie chow right now. Even if it dies to the haunted creeper, you've killed 2 minions with it and not given your opponent any health. It's just so strong at getting early board control. Getting the zombie chow in a mid-range or control deck is as important or as big of a play as getting Undertaker in the opening hand of an aggro deck. Because it can just influence the board state so heavily for just 1 mana. It is an insanely powerful card in the right deck, and it looks like Hype has found a lot of use out of it. Really, really lucky that he was able to get it out. And he's just going to be pretty strong here, since it can be difficult for a Druid to deal with. They don't want to use the swipe since it doesn't kill anything else, and so he will have to actually, he has no way to deal with it right now.
Yeah, he's only running 1 Wrath, as I mentioned earlier, which seems to be a really good card versus aggression. I really like Wrath, so I'm curious. He's obviously got good reason for only using 1 Wrath, but it does seem to be something that would really help, having a second one in here. Drawing that would have been really nice right now.
Also, getting an Innervate or something to get out that Black Knight would have been a huge play.
Yeah.
But, we like to dream.
The good thing is, though, the good thing, I was going to say there's a lot of potentials that taunt might still be there on turn 5. But, okay, so in all seriousness, so our Hunter has the kill command. The Owl's not very useful, but he can actually bring down the Undertaker, the Leopard, and then hero power, which is a considerable board with nothing that it's not super weak to swipe at this point.
Yeah, that's very true. If you get swiped, then your haunted creeper will still survive, and the
little creepers, the little baby creepers.
Right. Well, even a swipe couldn't kill the base spider itself.
Yeah,
which is really strong. That's what you really need as Druid. You want to kill that spider first, so that you can clear up the spectral spiders with the swipe damage. And this is a really strong board from Hunter. He doesn't have a lot going in his hand. A little bit of damage to push through, so he is going to be able to break through taunts fairly easily. But he doesn't have a lot to follow up, so if Hyped can make a pretty good board position play, I think right now I'm just going to coin out
a Spectral Knight, just because of the extra health on it, and its lack of, or its resistance to spells. And that's what he's going to play. And we're going to see a kill command. No, it might be a little early. It might be Creeper, hero power, And actually, you know what? There is some value to silencing this 4/6 because then you can kill command it. So it's a lot of mana to spend to not actually finish it off with the kill command.
Yeah, at this point, I would just go ahead and hang on to the kill command and to the silence.
Yeah.
You can save that silence until something gets taunted. Right now, I feel like the other issue with kill commanding, say if you're going to do it on face, I don't think there's ever a reason to kill command face when you could hero power, since you're overall missing 2 damage in the scheme of things. I think right now just Haunted Creeper hero power is going to be the best way to push through for damage. Continue to develop your board. It's still resilient to swipe. You are going to lose your Undertaker, but you still got a lot of work out of it. Got quite a bit of damage, and it will take a swing from the Spectral Knight.
Curious about this Hunter. Is it running, if typed Hunter is running Hound, it's running 1 Houndmaster. Okay. So it might come in handy. Oh, excuse me, I should be looking at Varranis' Hunter.
Varranis'.
Your
Hype's Hunter was banned.
Yeah. Yeah, 1 Houndmaster. Okay.
So looking at this board, I think Hyped is just going to throw down the Ancient Watcher and taunt it up, because that's going to be kind of the best way he feels to stop some of this aggression. However, we know that Varranis is able to silence that Ancient Watcher. He can throw a couple points of damage into that Spectral Knight if he wants to. And the Black Knight is insane. Oh, yeah, there's like a mini silence there when he can just Black Knight the Ancient Watcher, throw in the Leper Gnome and the Haunted Creeper in.
Look at that Black Knight value. Gets rid of the 4/5 though, because it's got a little bit more health, so it's a little bit more of a threat, or it's a little harder to kill, which is nice. And he's pushing through. He has lethal next turn.
He does. He's got 7 damage just coming from his hand, and he's got a really, really resilient board. This is going to be Varranis' game, bringing out 2 times in a row with the Hunter. There's no way for Hype to stop all of this, even if he had a perfect swipe. There's no way that he could clear the entirety of Hype's board, or Varranis' board.
If he hero power and use the Druid of the Claw, no. Basically, what the problem is that the Black Knight stays on board, plus the base kill command will be almost enough damage with any one of the spiders.
And you have Iron Beak Owl. You can Iron Beak Owl or hero power and kill command.
Iron Beak Owl. Oh, Iron Beak Owl a taunter, you're saying?
Well, you can just play it out on the board as a beast.
Oh, as a beast.
If your Haunted Creeper was killed. It's
that
just
that is very true.
Activator.
Yes.
And yeah, so this is game.
All right, so the Druid's going down here. Yeah, Hype's Druid's down.
0 out of 10 BM from Varranis. He didn't drag out the game any longer than it needed to be. He didn't play out his hand. He just went ahead and threw out the kill command. So I think that Varranis does have some things to work on in this tournament.
Wow. Yeah, it's gonna be a tricky road. As with a ban, you have an extra deck, so this does allow a little more flexibility from the players, because there's an extra deck in play, even though one is banned. It does just change the dynamic. And 2 control warriors here. Excuse me, a control warrior versus control druid, or anti-aggro druid. This should be interesting. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you guys. A control warrior versus a hunter. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. And this is.
I got it right on the 3rd time, which is better than not getting it right ever. But
that's true. That's true. Yeah, we've definitely gotten to.
And I want to just give a little shout out to all you guys who are wondering why I'm kind of making a lot of mistakes. In fact, I'm doing all the production live, and it's a tricky thing to do with a new system, the band system and the decks and the overlay. So it is tricky, and I'm getting used to it, and certainly will be getting better at it. So I appreciate your patience and understanding. And if you're not, sorry. Ha!
That's why I'm here.
And
so what we saw right there was the Undertaker had the potential to go out of control. He's had nothing but cheap death rattles in his hand, and that would have been ridiculous, but the Fiery War Axe was an enormous draw from Hype.
I didn't see him play a Fiery War Axe. I saw him play a Fiery Wind Axe, and that was definitely solid.
You're right. My mistake. Now you're done correcting me. That's exactly what we saw there. And now with the Armor Smith coming out, which I would expect to see, because it can gather quite a bit of armor and keep the board clear against a lot of Hunter's low health minions. getting out this Armor Smith here, it'll stop the Loot Hoarder, it'll stop the Leper Gnome. You attack the Haunted Creeper here to keep the potential of a Houndmaster in the next turn off, as well as allowing your Armor Smith to start to gather some armor off of those little Haunted Creepers. The Spectral Spiders is what they're called.
Yes.
And even though Varranis can dump out his hand, it's going to get taken care of a little bit by the Armor Smith and by the Acolyte of Pain, which is an enormous draw. It's kind of the only thing you can play in this situation, except for his second Fiery Win X.
I think that's fine too, because you don't see any way for the Hunter, both on the board and in the hand, to do 3 points of damage. And I feel like if you ever get 2 cards off the Acolyte, you're happy. Anything more is fantastic, but you really just want 2 cards and some trade if you can. That's
so true. And with the Armor Smith on the board, it also really takes away the there's some of the pressure off of the Acolyte. However, with the Iron Beak Owl coming out, it will deny the draw. There is that silence, that critical silence, which could potentially allow the Hunter to come in and have a chance in this game. Yeah, that's true. It does deny a lot of the card draw. However, once the Sludge Belcher comes out, it's going to be really tough for Varranis to deal with. We can see his hand. Only a Leper Gnome, which is going to be the weakest single card play he could make up against something like a Sludge Belcher. He's already used the silence. He doesn't have a kill command, and even if he does, it's going to be pretty unlikely that he even has a beast on the board, unless that Iron Beak Owl manages to stay up. Don't you wish drawing a card from Late Hoarder. I was like, don't you wish you could silence their silence? Wouldn't that be nice? Oh yeah. I suppose he's not going to be knocking it back to his hand, but yeah, I mean, even though it was silence, it's still going to be able to trade favorably here. It's going to be able to take out a 2/1 along with one of the 1/1 tokens. And I'm curious to see if he gets if he silences. Okay, so he's going to silence the card draw, not the secret, which I tend to like to do. I prefer to not give him a card, but there is value in certain situations of silencing and preventing the secret. So, but I like that play, and I think that's an interesting move. Right. That's very true. In this case, he's pretty okay with Freezing Trap coming down, because he would love to be able to bounce back this Iron Beak Owl or this Acolyte of Pain if it were to happen, and he knows that if he goes on Sludge Belcher, he doesn't need to attack with Sludge Belcher. He can just leave it on the field, never use it to activate the Freezing Trap, and just use it to soak up damage. However, Black Knight is going to be a really, really nice card from Varranis. Kind of the only card in his deck that can deal effectively with that Sludge Belcher without having the Beast synergy for a kill command. And with the turns as they are, Hype's turn 5 is going to be Varranis' turn 6. So, in fact, we are going to see a very fast Sludge Belcher get dispatched. I've never seen a player make it like that quick of a play in tournament play. I always see them think it over, mull it in their heads. But here, Varranis knows the play to make. Yeah, and he goes for it. Nothing to Houndmaster and then Hero Power. It is the Black Knight's coming down, but we have another Sludge Belcher. The only other option here would be to start to bring the Death Spite down, which would allow you to potentially. Well, it's not going to be good this turn because you don't get the Death Rattle just yet. But you could actually Death Spite, attack the Leper Gnome, and then execute the 4/5. Which isn't the worst thing in the world, but I like the Belcher. On this turn you couldn't, because you wouldn't damage the... Oh, you're right. You're right. You wouldn't. The Death Rattle wouldn't come out. You're right. That's what he wants to do next turn. Yeah, he definitely has a little bit more freedom to attack with the Death Spite once he has a taunt up. If he were just to attack in, say if he were to attack the Black Knight with his Death Spite and then hope to take out the Black Knight in the turn following, that would be 8 damage from the Black Knight, additional damage from the Leper Gnome, and just more than he's comfortable with, especially without any form of card draw and without any health gain from a shield block or an Alexstrasza. Silencing that Acolyte of Pain was actually a huge deal from Varranis, because Hyped is operating with far fewer cards than he's comfortable with. Baron Geddon is a terrible, terrible draw here. So it doesn't kill anything in your opponent, and it just helps your opponent kill you faster. He's just going to have to Death Spite this Houndmaster and then execute the Black Knight here. Yeah, I'm curious about I like the Death Spite here, because the next turn you can
if you attack in, right, next turn you can enable your Grom if you choose. So I think you clear the minion, you allow potential enabling, as well as 4 damage and 1 AoE to everything. So
I was kind of the armor at first, though.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Armor is better than health in literally every situation. Unless you're actually going to die and you get your armor after you've died.
You'd have died. Right.
And so I'm not sure if he wasn't sure if he was going to attack in. He had the potential to attack face, and then next turn he could have attacked face, damaged the Houndmaster, and then played Baron Geddon.
Okay, so he's going to favor the Acolyte card draw and Hero Power here. And let's see what he draws. Shield Slam, so then Hero Power in this case. And you're right, he would have had 2 additional armor here, which will come in handy with a card like Shield Slam. But that's alright.
Currently, Varranis with his Hero Power can remove the armor every turn. However, Varranis' hand is looking pretty awful. He can't do anything with it. He's considering denying some of the draw, but in the end, he's just going to let it be. Hope that he can draw into something big like Savannah Highmane and get his board presence back.
Oh man, yeah, you don't ever want to play Baron Geddon because it's just chopping you down as well as your opponent as well and the minions. So it's effectively Grom or Hero Power big game, and I guess I would go Hero Power every single turn if I could. So I might do that in this case instead of Grom.
Yeah, I think BGH Hero Power is probably the only play you can make. Baron Geddon Hero Power wouldn't leave him dead next turn, but it would bring him dangerously close if Varranis drew into a Beast, because he could Beast, Kill Command, attack Hero Power, that's 10 damage, and Hyped would be on 2 health. At that point, Varranis could just pass it back to Hyped, and he basically just kill himself with
Also,
Baron
there's
Geddon.
a secret out, so he does need to figure out how to navigate that secret before he drops. So does he want to attack in and see what that secret is? I think that's something he needs to think about, and he doesn't have a lot of time.
Right, that's for sure. If it is explosive, he will get to draw a card. It is freezing, so
he's going to now drop
Baron Geddon.
Geddon. Interesting.
All right, I mean, help your opponent kill yourself a little bit quicker. I'm interested to see exactly what the Baron Geddon is here to do. But without a Beast drawn, that's actually Varranis unable to kill him quite yet. He will be able to deal 5 damage. He's still really hoping to draw into a Beast, though, since with that kind of risky Baron Geddon, that actually gives Hype the potential to end this in the not next turn, but the turn following.
Yeah, because he can't armor up, Shield Slam his own Gromish. He's 1 mana off of that. So, okay.
Right, he's actually considering here Hunter's marking and attacking with his... Oh,
Hunter's marking and kill command.
Okay.
I think that's better. I mean, the 7 damage is pretty painful, so I like that. Even though you're giving yourself a little bit harder chance of winning. In this particular case, 7 damage is a lot where you're at right now.
That's true, that's true. You're not necessarily worried about a Warrior's burst damage until you fall down to that 12 health threshold. With both Shield Slams, I feel like he's pretty safe to just armor up Shield Slam Acolyte. His other option is Gromish into the Undertaker to remove it, and then you've got an enraged Grom with unlikely a way for Hunter to deal with it, since he has absolutely no cards in his hand.
You could also Hero Power Acolyte double Shield Slam.
Right. In this case, though, look at this. He's got a 10-8 on the board
with an empty hand, and
Hunter doesn't have a single 1-card answer.
Yeah, he's got tracking, which will give him 3 potentials, but
in this case, he sees Eaglehorn, Bow, Savannah Highmane, and Flare are his 3 options. We don't have them up on the overlay. Oh,
yeah, they're up now.
Wonderful.
Quick. The scores will be wrong at for just this moment, but let's see what he picks.
Savannah Highmane looks very strong here. It does have the potential to contest the Grom over 2 turns. But overall, I mean, this Grom play, although aggressive, was definitely the right move to make.
I'm really, and as well with the Baron Geddon before, really interesting. Playing with fire, but Hype knowing the matchup really well. And so now the thing is, though, that you're dead to the Highmane. So you need to you need to effectively deal with it, right?
I say run Grom in, armor up, double shield slam the hyenas, and then you can't play Big Game Hunter though, because Big Game Hunter the required
you cannot. You cannot play that.
Yeah, for anyone curious, if Big Game Hunter has a potential target, then you have to target it even if it's your own minion. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the most dead draws in the entire deck. I think he's already played both Leopard Gnomes, which would be the worst draws.
But the game's not over yet. We only have 11 points of damage here. An Armor Smith will be really nice. So he's going to get to use the Acolyte. And he gets a shield block. Oh, that is a fantastic draw. Getting Ragnaros, the Fire Lord, and he is up to 15 health. That's going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scavenging Hyena and Mad Scientist are not going to be nearly enough for Varranis to do anything. He had some really, really nice games previously, but he is toying with the concede, and there it is. Varranis, although he fought valiantly, he was brought down by the Warrior, which has traditionally had a really strong matchup against that Hunter, with its ability to build up its armor to remove minions pretty effectively without necessarily losing a lot of health. Jumping right into the game, we've got Varranis up 2-1 over Hyped, bringing out the Druid against Hype's Warrior, and this Druid is going to be a bit more of the aggressive double combo nature, a la Kalento and Strifecrow. Whoa! That's not a card I've seen in a deck for some time. Oh man. Hogger boys. Alright. So if you can get that out, it'll be interesting to see exactly how it fares. It doesn't have a lot of impact on the turn you play it out, but if you can protect it with something like a weapon or a taunt, then it can get out of control. However, this Innervate Shade of Naxxramas. I've been playing too much WoW, so I just wanted to call it, a Shaw of whatever negative emotion there is, because that's what the art is based off of. But these are some perfect turns out of Varranis. He immediately gets going with his Shade building up, along with that Wild Growth, putting him one turn ahead of his opponent. And now Hype does have his next few turns kind of laid out with him, with his weapon and with his Sludge Belcher, but the silence onto that Acolyte of Pain is going to really limit Hype's abilities to fill up his hand after he throws out these next couple turns.
Yeah. Huh.
Here we go. Second Shade in Naxxramas and the Hero Power to just start pushing through damage in the face. He's not going to attack with this Shade because he's afraid of it dying to the weapon. So instead, he's just going to allow it to build up. That does make it a lot weaker to Brawl. But at this point, a Brawl on just 2 minions is really going to set back Hype's ability, so he's not going to throw it out yet, instead just opting for the taunt of the Sludge Belcher.
This is called Custom Show, SJOW, the Hearthstone player. And you've got your Harrisons, your Hoggers, Baron Geddon, Ysera Rag. So an interesting take. A slight change from what we're used to seeing, but overall, including a Big Game Hunter and Ascension, similar to what we've been seeing a lot lately. So Hogger seems to be just like sort of the Hogger, and the Geddon and Harrison seem to be the tech cards in this one, as well as the big game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hogger with the amazing anti-synergy with Baron Geddon there. It can be difficult for some decks to deal with. That's absolutely sure, because if you don't have a way to get through that 2/2 taunt every turn and take out Hogger, then Hogger's just going to get such amazing value.
Yeah.
Hyped is always just on the verge of wanting to throw out that Brawl, but he knows it's not time yet. He has to be afraid of that Shade of Naxxramas, though. He has a couple of potential plays, though. He could use an attack in and shield slam. He, of course, just uses his weapon here instead to take out the Ancient of Lore, and then decides to develop Hogger since he does have it safe behind that Sludge Belcher for now.
Yeah, that card works out incredibly well right now. With 7 mana, Swipe will not deal with... What are the little Hoggers called? Are they Hogs? Like, I actually don't know.
A Knoll, I think.
A Knoll? Knoll. Oh,
like a Knoll. G-N-O-L-L.
I've heard of that. Is that a...
It's a race.
Okay.
It's the race that Hogger is. Hogger is a a fun little epic enemy in the human starting zone in WoW.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing to deal with that right now without getting rid of the Shade's concealment, if you will.
I think you just need to swipe the hugger.
You
can
do.
get rid of that 2/2 taunt machine.
Hero power, I guess, is not bad here in that regard. Or you could cycle your Wrath.
Usually, if you have the chance to cycle Wrath or Hero Power, I tend to prefer Hero Power since you always have the potential to Wrath for 3 later on, which you don't have if you cycle it now. And since you have some pretty strong plays in your next few turns with Ancient of Lore and maybe using this Force of Nature to clear, you don't have any need to draw that extra card.
Yeah, we have another Death Spite here. Acolyte. It looks
he's playing the long game with these shades.
He really is.
Yeah,
he's got an Innervate and he's got one piece of the combo, and Varranis' Druid. You know, I'm wondering if it's running 2 pieces. I'm trying to remember.
It looks like the very standard double combo deck.
Yeah, it's double combo. So effectively, he's hoping when he gets the combo to just end the game.
Right. Especially with the Keeper of the Grove now, he could silence the taunt there, and he's not really that pressured by Hypes right now. Hype doesn't have a great way, like Warriors often fail to do, to end the game quickly with burst damage, because right now his board is on very low attack, and something like a Baron Geddon would clear his own board as much as it would help deal with the opponent's. There's the Keeper coming out, silencing the Sludge Belcher, and that's going to allow a lot of damage to swing onto Hyped from these shades.
Yep,
God,
and now that they're unconcealed, the question is, do you bring down the Yeti to try to prevent such a devastating board up there, or do you Wrath and get rid of the Belcher? Or get rid of the Acolyte? I mean, get rid of the Acolyte maybe, but effectively get rid of one of the minions.
I would take care of one of the minions here, especially since playing down Yeti plays much more into a potential brawl.
But think about this, though. You'd lose all of your minions. You'd have to trade then brawl. It's a very tricky brawl in this case. But I like the Wrath. I do like the Wrath.
And removing your opponent's minions, it does take away his potential trade into, and maybe you thought my opponent would have brawled because of these concealed shades if he had it, so he might not even think that Hyped has got it in his arsenal, but now Hyped has really got to do something here, and looking at everything in his hand, I think Brawl's the only way to take care of it all, because he can't use his weapon to remove, he doesn't have a shield block to combo with a shield slam, and he doesn't have an execute to take care of those. He doesn't have the attack power to take care of the shade, and if he takes that 8 damage to the face, then he's going to be out of the running here.
Can he hero power, Death Spite, Shield Slam, and you combo the Shield Slam with your 2 minions to get rid of the 8/7, and then you use your Death Spite on the 5/4, leaving just the 2/1? Yeah, you could do all of that.
So you said Death Spite, Hero Power, Shield Slam?
Yeah, Death Spite, and then when you Hero Power for 2, you do 2 damage to the 8/7. Then you do the additional 5 with your 2 minions on board, and then you're effectively taking 5 from the 5/4 shade, and
so you come down to 9 health in the end, and you don't have anything on your board.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Right. And so I'm just looking, and that would be lethal from Varranis, since he has Force of Nature and Hero Power.
Yeah, and you've got to assume he's got that.
If he takes it to the face, I think he just has to. We have to go full Brawl Boys here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way he's going to be able to win, and that's what he ultimately.
And he's going to go full brawl. You got to do it. I think you're right. The other option, while it did clear most of the minions, didn't fully clear the board, and he's contemplating it. There's a very slight delay on the stream, but there's another very, very slight delay on the stream. Sorry, guys. Yeah, give me 1 second here.
Yeah, right now it looks like Varranis has just kind of skipped a little bit ahead of Hype's stream, but what we did see was the Brawl did come down, and if we're waiting for it to come up, I can just kind of... Oh, no, here we go. There's a Brawl coming down, and it will be the 5/4 shade. It survives. Aha.
Ugh. Well, that is, as we say. Oh, okay. Look at this. Okay, so we're having a little bit of a stream issue here, guys. Sorry.
So we're seeing Varranis' hand in the future, but Hype's board now. So we can just go ahead and wait for what's going to happen from Varranis' end.
Yeah, I'll try to reset both the streams so that they're synced up after this game in between. When they give me 3 seconds to do it in between choosing their next deck. But it was a good enough brawl to keep the warrior alive, but it's going to be well, I don't know, actually. I got to say, with an execute here and the Senjin, well, no, because you got force hero power. Okay, there it is.
Yeah,
Force
we haven't
nature,
quite seen the execute or the Senjin yet here on Hype's.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. For you guys wondering, we see Varranis' stream as well. But from what looks like a really good spot from Hype to at least stay in this game, he's going to throw down the Senjin, execute the Shade and Extramus, and stay alive for the time being.
Yeah, and you can see that the inevitable is going to happen because the other stream is ahead a little bit. This inevitably will be a Force of Nature Savage Roar. Now you guys get to see it on stream, and we're going to go into the next game. Give me a second here as we go into game number 5. And
here we go. I mean, this has been quite the series. Hyped, definitely.
There's with the decks. It is. We just had a brief shot of that Mage Mulligan, but he got rid of all of it. Antonidas Doomsayer. Well, he couldn't find Doomsayer before. He got it now. He just needs to pair that with Freeze. And, yeah, as you said, it's going to be a true feat for this deck to reverse and win 3 games in a row.
That's true, that's true. It can do well against Druid, since Druid relies so heavily on getting powerful minions out on the board, and the ability of Flame Strike and Doomsayer to deal with those is tremendous. Hype does have a chance in this game for sure. I think that Freeze Mage has maybe even a slightly favorable matchup against Druid because of the freezes, because Druid really just relies on swinging with large minions to deal damage. However, we always have that that Control Warrior looming in the background, and so I am terrified for Hyped. Right now, Varranis can potentially silence the Loot Hoarder to deny some draw. I think that would actually be his strongest play here, since when you play against a Freeze Mage... No, you know what? No, he's got to save that silence for the Doomsayer, of course. When you play against a Freeze Mage, though, you have to play against it different than any other class, because the way that they win is so different than any other deck in Hearthstone. Other decks in Hearthstone rely on drawing into, you know, certain combos that they're going to charge in, or they rely on board control, or they rely on a lot of little minions. But Freeze Mage just has basically one win condition with Alexstrasza and then their burst damage, and so you do everything you can to keep that from happening, and then you swing him with your minions after a couple of turns for lethal. And so right now we see a pretty big board from Varranis, but it's not going to mean the world, since Freeze Mage always has tools to deal with that. However, with a Keeper of the Grove in hand, he does have a way to take care of that Doomsayer if it drops down. Right now we see Frost Nova, Cone of Cold, and Blizzard as ways to keep this board off, but Cone of Cold can't be targeted quite yet because of the stealth and the untargetability from the Spectral Knights. The positioning right here is also really important to not allow that Shade of Naxxramas in the middle, so that if you do decide to unveil it, the Cone of Cold still won't target all 3 minions. Mm-hmm. Right now, Frost Nova is just going to come out, even though it's not comboed with the Doomsayer quite yet. Oh no! It is. It is. Yes. Comboed with Doomsayer. Yeah. Okay. I didn't quite see it played, but it's going to be silenced immediately by this Keeper of the Grove.
Should be.
Right.
Should be. And there it comes down. And I do really like your description of the placement. That's something we haven't seen in a long time, since like the early beta, and then maybe right when the game first came out, because there weren't a lot of spells that were targeting one minion and having AoE to its adjacent minions that were being used that often.
Yeah, we've got like Betrayal, Explosive
Betrayal.
Shot, Gold, things that we don't really see much outside of Arena. But in this case, it's pretty important to keep those Spectral Knights in between, or I guess next to each other, so that they can't both be knocked out by one cone. And right now, we've got a really powerful board from Varranis, and Hype doesn't have too many ways of dealing with it. He has a Blizzard, potentially, but he really wants to have that Flame Strike to follow it up. A Blizzard into a Flame Strike would be the perfect way to get back into this board, or back into this game. But right now, he doesn't have much to do after that Blizzard. He does have a lot of potential for Mantinitis in the future, since he has saved that coin, though.
Yeah, it would have been really nice if he had an earlier chance to get out the Loot Hoarder for additional card draw. But as it stands, he did not, and it's in a tricky spot here.
Yeah, that's so true. He really would have liked to see the Flame Strike, but now, I mean, Cone of Cold can remove 12 damage from your opponent pushing in, or 13 damage. You're still going to be attacked by both Spectral Knights, so you only take 8 overall. So it still is probably the best play here. You could Cone of Cold and Loot Hoarder.
You can also Hero Power the 2/2, which would kill it after you Cone of Cold it.
Yes, and that's also a really nice way to prevent that in the future. He's really hoping to draw into a second Blizzard or second Flame Strike to keep him alive, though, since he's
man, this is so tricky.
Precarious spot.
And if you actually kill Karn with something like a Fireball, you then have to Cone of Cold after, but you can't do both. Well, you could do both with the coin. But, okay, so he's going to trade in to get one of the Spectrals down, hopefully maybe getting to kill it next turn, potentially with the Loot Hoarder. Yeah, that would be the potential here, is to kill it next turn with the Loot Hoarder.
Yeah, it also makes it vulnerable to Blizzard in future turns.
Yeah, to the potential Blizzard, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I was like eyeing over the deck. I'm like, wait, where's Blizzard? Where is it? I didn't see it.
Yeah, he doesn't have it in his hand, but he's hoping to draw into it. He's just kind of got to play for future turns to prepare for the lucky draws, because if he doesn't prepare for them at all, then he's really got no way to get back into this. I mean, looking at this board is so extremely oppressive. Fireball does not do it for him, and I don't really see a way that, I mean, this ice block is going to be popped next turn. Is there a potential of Antonitis, coin, and then a couple of spells, or one spell in addition, just to slow things down, and then maybe you'll have enough fireballs to just finish him straight out next turn? I guess you run in your Loot Hoarder first. I guess is the first thing you do here. I think running in the Loot Hoarder, into the Keeper, probably the best play, because then you can Cone of Cold Cairn, and then you remove 17 points of damage.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of damage.
That can actually prevent your Ice Lock from being popped next turn. If you Antonitis here, you can only get a maximum of 2 fireballs, and that's only if you coin Ice Lance.
He double fireballs, he goes face, and he says, I can kill you next turn.
How long is Varranis? Varranis is just suddenly on 5 health now.
Yeah. He is.
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting that. Wow.
Savage Roar does nothing to pop an ice block.
That's actually got a signal. I think Varranis is now suddenly afraid of a Frostbolt Ice Lance. Even though we know Hype doesn't have that. Hype is bluffing just a bit.
But he's got a second ice block, so he has an additional turn.
Oh, you know what? He doesn't need it. He can Antonitis, coin, Fireball.
Antonitis, coin, Fireball. Yes. Wow. You're right.
There's no Loathep. You're
right. You're right. Antonitis, coin, Fireball. Absolutely.
There's 1 armor from Hero Power, and
the coin gets you the Fireball, and the extra mana lets you play it.
Yep. Antonitis, coin, Fireball wins in the game. I can't believe he was able to deal damage. I didn't realize Varranis has taken so much damage from using his Hero Power to clear minions that Hype just was able to burst him out without the Alexstrasza, without the help of too much help, of course, from this. I
kind of look. I wasn't watching it from that perspective this whole time, so I feel like a little bit, as you did, at a loss at how his health got down so low. There must have been opportunities to not use his hero power at least once or twice to prevent this, but it's wow.
And so now we're going to see it. He's got Letha right here. He's going to see it because he knows this deck.
Yeah.
And so there it is. Antonitis coming down, the sweet, sweet music. And... Wait.
What? Were we off on the mana?
Were we up? He only had 9 mana. He only had 9 mana that turn.
Okay. So Antonitis, block.
But he's gonna get lethal next turn. There wasn't any healing.
Well, and he'll use the hero power or 2 fireballs, either or.
Yeah. And so, darn it.
I loved your analysis on 10 mana. I think that was really cool, and the fact that we are at 9 mana on this next turn is just, it is what it is. I think it was really good insight, and ultimately is a very similar play with the ice block that I had mentioned.
Yeah. Antonitis, coin ice block, and then double fireball, hero power. You can ice lance yourself, and then it accidentally turns into a frostbolt. It's suddenly you're at top.
Get out of there. So that's my way of saying, in my eyes, you were right.
And Varranis has got to feel so hopeless right now, because no matter what he does, he cannot finish it out. And there is the
nicely done by Hyped to bring this back to now only down 1 game, although it's going to be tough. He's trying to do it.
They go to their strong matchup, but there's also the element of tilt, where if you lose an additional game, then you might not play your final matchup perfectly. You might be a little more tired, and if you know you can close it out here, then you can just go for it.
I feel like the tilt factor and the tired factor is something that maybe Varranis is thinking about with choosing the warrior here, and I think that's fine. I like it. I mean, ultimately, this is your deck to win with. Should you lose here, you just have another shot, effectively, with the Shaman. You really should win it here. So, it's interesting. I don't think there's any cards that he doesn't know that are in this deck. I don't think there's a point for recon with this particular deck.
Yeah, that's true. In this situation, you've got both Armor Smiths out, and you can already remove the Loot Hoarders. I mean, you've won the match already with these Armor Smiths, and it's sad, but it's true. If people are curious why the matchup is so ridiculous, Warrior has the potential to get above 30 health with the armor. They have such tremendous armor gain with their Armor Smiths, as well as the shield blocks. And Freeze Mage is entirely limited by the amount of burst damage that it can do.
With the exception of Antonitis and a bunch of spells, which is a potential here. Again, it just makes it a possibility. It doesn't make it incredibly likely.
That's true. There is a possibility. I've been talking it up. But maybe Hyped is going to be the one to win against a Control Warrior. And that's what Antonitis allows you to do. It makes the matchup slightly better, but it's still likely the most one-sided matchup in all of Hearthstone.
Don't you feel like if there is a player or a handful of players that could win with some frequency or some kind of consistency with a Freeze Mage against a Warrior, it would be a player like Hyped who has innovated this deck?
That's so true. If someone's going to do it, it would be Hyped. And so I'd love to see that today.
Yeah, so we're really, I think what I'm saying is I'm really excited to see how the best of the best with a Freeze Mage will play in a very bad matchup. There is something to be learned and gained from this particular match, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, there's 2 ways that Freeze Mage can win this. One is that your opponent doesn't get any shield block or Armor Smith, which is already proven to be not the case, since both Armor Smiths are on the field and they've already gained a pretty solid amount of that armor. He's already up to 36 health. The other option is that you can get an uncontested Antonitis out for 2 turns, and if you have 2 turns worth of fireball drawing, then you can have the burst damage to take down your opponent, even once they get above 40 or 50 health. But right now, I mean, you can see 38 health. That's already more than your entire direct damage arsenal can deal, if you're not taking Antonitis into account. And if you can only draw 1 or 2 fireballs of Antonitis, that's likely not enough to finish out the game. There's 40 health on the Warrior, and no matter how many Ice Barriers come out here, Warrior is going to have the damage pressing through.
Now,
he has the
we don't have Pyro, but we have Alexstrasza, so that will allow a removal of 15 damage instantly, and then we have the Archmage, so that would be a really good draw for him to get in the near future.
Very, very true. But I mean, you've taken care of both armor smiths. Your opponent's at 48 health, and you're a deck that only deals direct damage. There's the lull coming out, I think, because they're seeing how absolutely dominating this matchup is. I mean, Hyped has the potential to maybe clear out this board with a Cone of Cold. He could, you know, sometimes you like to fireball 4/5, but that's a fireball you need to hit the face with. And without the coin, your anti-ice is going to be so much weaker. There's times when you could maybe coin Ice Block or coin Frostbolt Ice Lance, but that's not going to be possible here with Hype's current hand.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what about Acolyte, Hero Power on the Acolyte?
That draws. The issue is it overdraws you if your opponent attacks in with their Acolyte and then with their Black Knight. And if you burn something like Alexstrasza, then it's absolutely game over. You don't have the possibility to win. Varranis could basically just go AFK and Hero Power every turn. Set up an auto-clicker and still win the game that way.
I don't think it would have might have overdrawn you one card. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. And you can't overdraw the one card, because that one card is Alexstrasza, then you're out the running.
Shield Slam. Bam. 18 damage. Ouch.
Why not just Shield Slam face, and you're already almost at lethal?
I know. Such a misplay by Varranis. We're going to have to talk to him about that.
That's my favorite thing of all Twitch chat, which I've realized isn't always a troll, it's sometimes new players. Shield Slam only targets minions.
Yeah.
Friends. Same with Execute. I mean, this
Shield Slam face, no space. Is that what we're talking about in Twitch chat?
This would be such a great Execute play too. Look, the mage is already damaged. Just take him out.
Yeah. And guys, we're not quite at the end of our series yet, but there will be post-game interviews with the challenger, and if there's a winner from DKMR, the winner of DKMR, depending on how it all hashes out. Although we do see it pretty favored right now for Varranis. There will be at least one. What's up?
He's at 50 HP. You can change the overlay if you want.
That's funny. Disciple. I missed this. Okay, so we have a... I mean, I think you have to go for the win, even though it's incredibly unlikely. I like this. Hero Power in. Maybe you get Alexstrasza. Nope, you get a Frostbolt. Do you Frostbolt your own guy? Or, yeah, why not?
Frostbolt yourself to ease the process along.
I mean, okay, I would say Frostbolt your Acolyte.
He Frostnova's here to prevent overdrawing, which is actually really smart. Yeah. Because now, even if your opponent attacks your face and you draw a card, you're going to end up with 10 cards overall. But with the Alexstrasza coming out,
whoops,
it's his face. He's not going to live for too much longer.
That's an oops, GG, well played.
Yeah, I mean, the board is insurmountable. The health is impossible to overcome. You don't even have Alexstrasza. Alexstrasza only brings your opponent down to 35 health. maybe old beta Alexstrasza could have brought them down to 15.
Yep.
That could keep the game winnable for you. But unfortunately, Alexstrasza now only affects health and leaves armor up, which is why armor is better than health in 95% of circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Very true statements you say there, my friend. Very true. He's contemplating his existence, I believe, now. Maybe he's thinking about what he'll say in the post-game interview, that why he lost, or perhaps he's rethinking the order in which he played these decks. He might be thinking about the game, and there's the Arcane Intellect proving he's still in the game thinking about it. Blizzard is actually a good draw here, although it will not win him the game. It works. He can use his Acolyte into Sylvanas and then Blizzard. That is a play. And he's going to go face, because why not? 49 health is better than 50, right?
He's closer to winning than he was before.
Mm-hmm. Ragnaros the Fire Lord. Well, that's also an amazing card versus Freeze Mage, as it hits without having to attack. For those of you who are new here, I'm sure nobody is. This is my version of color commentary when the game has ended.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Ragnaros is one of the strongest cards up against Freeze Mage. It also can potentially remove a Doomsayer in one hit. Your opponent's down at 3. You're here. Hyped is dealing with 51 points of health, and he's got a full hand. He's been drawing the cards. He's done everything that Freeze Mage intends to do. He's even got his card draw.
Okay, wait. I thought we were going to see the Loot Hoarder double Isolant on the Loot Hoarder. Come on, you know you want to.
So he's talking about Loot Hoarders that maybe it'll take the Rag hit, but we know that this the Ice Block can be popped anyway by the Axe, which is exactly what you do. You don't allow this Ice Block to stay up for
oh man, draws Shield Block, and that will do it. The pain is too much. Hyped cannot endure this anymore, and why should he? So guys, we're going to get Hyped up on here for a quick chat, and then we'll talk to our winner, DKMR Varranis, taking this series 4-3